What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Football Busters podcast. We are recording this on, what is it, Thursday. I don't even have my dates right. I'm all mixed up. Thursday, December 29th. I'm back. Will's here. How we feeling today?
Hey man, just glad to see that you're back. Glad to see you're alive again, you know. And we're at the end of the season,
Halfway.
man. Champ week in the leagues that
Yes,
matter, of
sir.
course.
In the leagues that matter, for those crazies out there that keep going into week 18, I guess we'll still keep the lights on here for you, but I can't say that I respect you. Get
Yeah.
your shit together and end your season in week 17.
I can't say if you're
Um,
watching week 18 and you're watching our content, you're not going to feel good about yourself at the end of the
yeah. Um, but yeah, I want to say a big thank you to you, Will, for keeping the lights on, for picking up for my slack while I wasn't here. I didn't watch all of the videos, but I watched some of them. Quality was still great. You're killing it.
day. Hell
So
yeah.
drop a big thank you to Will down in the comments for keeping things going around here. Honestly, I'm still not feeling great, but the show must go on. It's week 17. Like you said, it's championship week. I can't miss this. Got to help you guys out. So
Hell yeah.
for week 17, we have our sit starts, the most important sit starts we're ever going to do. Hopefully, we don't fuck this up.
Yeah, no bullshit. It'd be crazy you guys listen to us and you lose, wouldn't it? Like
But we're we're going to try our best and know that, we're following our own advice. So it's not like we're out here just telling you guys to do some random stuff. This is the best we got. And we're going to start off at the quarterback position. So we do still have some injuries that we're worried about. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, he still has a chance to play. They're talking about him pushing to play because now it matters for them clinching the division and clinching that number one seed, getting a bye. So it's possible he plays, but it looks like still probably not going to happen. Continue to monitor that status.
mhm.
Lamar Jackson is questionable, but it seems like he's still probably not going to play. And anybody out there that has Kyler Murray, obviously he's done for the season, but you might still be scrambling for quarterback options. Um, and then some quarterbacks that have matchup issues. We have Joe Burrow. He's taken on the Buffalo Bills, who are second ranked against quarterbacks. Let me know your thoughts on Burrow in general, and if you're worried about this matchup for him.
I'm worried, but at the same time, because it is a tough matchup, but at the same time, the Bengals' offense has been playing so well lately, and Joe Burrow himself has been playing so well lately that I don't even think the matchup's going to really matter all too much in this case.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not too worried about it. I think this is a start your studs situation. He's too good to bench him at this point in the season. I'm definitely not scrounging the waiver wire to find a replacement for Burrow.
Yeah.
Um, Trevor Lawrence, who has been hot as of late, he goes to Houston, who's fourth ranked against the quarterback, which we laugh about every time we say because they're not good on defense in any way, shape, or form. They're just so bad against the run that they don't allow much to quarterbacks. So, what are your thoughts here?
So Trevor Lawrence, he's been really hot as of late. Last week, not really so much. He didn't really do too much except throw for. I think he threw for like 226 yards. That's it total.
Yeah.
But this is one of those games again where they could just be so successful running the ball that they don't have to pass it. But I don't know. How do you feel about this
um, Houston has been better of late.
one?
Um, and I think that that's going to play a part. Like, they've been so bad that, teams are just dominating them throughout the season. They don't need to throw the ball because they can run it,
But they've
run
been
out the
having some
clock,
games
and
as
win the
of late.
game. Exactly. Yeah, they just won against Tennessee. They took the Cowboys down to the wire. They almost beat somebody else too, right? I'm forgetting what the other
Um,
matchup was, but there was another game in there against a pretty decent team that they gave them a scare.
the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, that's
Yeah, they
right,
lost to the Chiefs in overtime.
which is crazy. Um, but yes, I think if they're bringing that type of energy, if they're playing well again, I'm not super worried about Trevor Lawrence. Like if Houston's gonna put up points, then so is Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Um, so I'm not super worried about him. But let's play a little game here. same thing that we've been doing the last couple of weeks. I'll give you some names in the same ranking range, and you tell me who you would start.
Okay.
Um, so we'll start high. Um, Dak Prescott versus Tennessee,
Take that.
pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Goff versus Chicago.
Jared Goff, probably. I
Yeah, I
kind of
think I
got
would.
hurt by not starting him last week.
Yeah, no, I would do the same there. These rankings are a little bit weird, but I'll do it just based on what I think, I guess. Kirk Cousins versus Green Bay.
I'd stick with Kirk.
I think I would too. And then it starts to get a little interesting. Justin Herbert versus the Rams.
Ooh, if it's the Rams from last week, I'd probably stick with Justin Herbert. If the Rams are actually like finding ways to put up points, because I can't explain what last week even was. I feel like last week was just an anomaly.
Yeah, 51 points from that team. I
Because
I don't know that that's
yeah,
replicable.
yeah, I think this might be where I draw the line right here, and I'll go Trevor Lawrence right here
Yeah.
because it would rely on the Rams actually being a football team again next week, and I'm not sure if they can do that 2 weeks in a row. But I don't know. Last week was weird.
Yeah, I would draw the line here as well. Justin Herbert's just been he's been bad, man. It's been a really disappointing season for him, fantasy wise at least. Real NFL, it hasn't been terrible, and it definitely hasn't been all on him, his struggles. But crazy when most of the fantasy community, unfortunately, including us, had him ranked as like the second quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry about that. um, and then some names that we'll talk about as potential waiver wire fill-ins if you're struggling at the quarterback position with any other names, or if you're in a super flex league and you're struggling to fill out that super flex position. We got guys like Daniel Jones, if he's still out there and available. He's taken on Indianapolis, who is 19th ranked against quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew, if Hurts doesn't play, of course, he's taken on New Orleans, who's 15th ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy gets a really good matchup at Vegas. They're only 27th ranked against quarterbacks. Really good matchup there. And Mike White, who's coming back healthy, going into Seattle, who's 22nd ranked against the quarterback. Do you have a favorite of those four, or if you want to rank them, just let me know your thoughts there.
If I had to rank these four, I would probably go Daniel Jones first. I think, yeah, I would probably go Daniel Jones first right here. Then Gardner, then Mike White, and then Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy
Okay.
a lot. I don't know, man. It relies a lot on them having to throw the ball a good amount. And against Las Vegas, I don't really see that being the case.
Yeah.
Especially because we know the 49ers, they will just run the ball every play if they got the option to. And I think this might be one of those games where they're going to do that a good amount. And Daniel Jones is
Yeah.
a good rushing floor. Gardner Minshew's been playing pretty well, honestly.
Yeah. No, I think I totally agree with you there. And I think a lot of these guys in one quarterback leagues, I guess they could be available. In Superflex, they probably won't be there. But um, Brock Purdy, Mike White, I've seen on a ton of waiver wires. Good options if you need
Mm-hmm.
them. We'll go to the running back position, and we'll start off with injuries again. Derrick Henry, he hasn't been practicing, and so I think as of now he's listed as doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's not going to play. So that's a huge blow to a lot of teams that I'm sure had Derrick Henry on their rosters heading into championship week. We're going to try to help you find some fill-ins there. And then Miles Sanders. I didn't really hear about this injury until this morning, but he's dealing with a knee injury, and I don't think he's practiced so far this week. Um, so that's definitely another one to watch. Um, and do you have any additional news on that? I know I'm springing this on you right now, but
I'm
I don't know if there's
taking
any clarity.
I'm taking a look now. It says, yeah, Miles Sanders was among 4 players to sit out of practice. Of course, with Lane Johnson, Jalen Hurts, and C.J. Gardner Johnson.
Yeah.
But as far as what the injury is itself, we haven't gotten any news on that yet.
Okay. But yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on there. But we'll get into our matchup section here. Some difficult matchups for running backs. We have Josh Jacobs, who has already kind of been on the downturn along with the entirety of the Las Vegas Raiders. They go and take on San Francisco 49ers, who are number one ranked against running backs. And Also, on top of this, who knows how much this matters for the running back position, but Derek Carr is getting benched for Jarrett Stidham, which I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like that's just total disrespect to Derek Carr at this point.
Oh, it's a scapegoat move. That's what it is. It's, oh, let's blame everything on Derek Carr's play this season, and it's not Derek Carr's fault, and we all know
Not even
that.
a little.
And Derek
Yeah.
Carr knows that. That's why he kind of just, you know what? Cool. I'm gonna go home. You guys, I got your permission. Bet I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna just leave this be. Let it be what it is. Because
Yep.
the Raiders situation is crazy right now.
It's ridiculous. It's a total shit show out there in Vegas. But for fantasy purposes, Josh Jacobs taking on San Francisco. What are your thoughts?
I'm nervous. I'm real nervous because it's like, yeah, you're game planning for Jarrett Stidham. So you're like, all right, the passing game, it's going to be what it is. We're not super nervous about it. But what we can do is stop Josh Jacobs. That's a definite. And especially with San Francisco, who has been the best in the league at stopping running backs on weeks where they're not solely game planning for the running back. I don't know what Josh Jacobs is going to do this week, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence. He's coming off of a rough week. The quarterback play is going to be even worse. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen Jarrett Stidham, and he's not good.
Yeah.
I this is another guy. Like we just talked about Derrick Henry, and that's due to injury. But I don't know. oh, I think I'm going to go through more of the running backs because a lot of these guys in this ranking set that I'm looking at are ranked close to each other, and I don't want to get super repetitive. But we'll talk about some guys that maybe you'd want to start over him in a minute.
Yep.
Then we have the Dallas running back group, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. They're going into Tennessee, who is fourth ranked against the run.
Okay. So I guess for my opinion on this one, Tony Pollard, I'm probably a little bit less nervous about than like Zeke. Tony Pollard, of course, being more of the receiving back this year, and Zeke being more of the ground and pound kind of guy, sort of a thunder and lightning type situation over there.
Yeah.
But them as a whole, I'm not super nervous just because of how involved I think they're going to get them as well. Besides CeeDee Lamb, the running backs are the only people really, really involved in the offense. And then occasionally Michael Gallup will get a touchdown every once in a while. But yeah, I'm not super nervous about the running backs. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'd probably go Pollard over Zeke.
Yeah. So I think in a vacuum, I would agree with you. I'm looking it up right now because I didn't have the specifics in front of me, but Tony Pollard is questionable
Yeah,
for this game with a thigh injury.
he's
I
questionable,
think,
but he has traveled with the team. He's out there now.
yeah, and it seems like all of the reports have been pretty positive about him playing. Is that right?
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
the team had said early in the week before he'd even started traveling that they're kind of depending on him being out there this week. So they're game
yeah.
planning as if he's going to be there.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry about him missing, and I don't think I'd worry about him being limited. You just worry about a re-injury
Hmm.
or something tightening up for him. Um, but yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Tennessee's definitely a tough matchup, but with the way that this offense has been rolling and the way that they've been involving their running backs, like you said, you just have to put them out there.
Hmm.
And then we have Nick Chubb traveling to Washington, who is sixth ranked against running backs. Nick Chubb has really been struggling for the past month. I think last week was his highest output in his past 4 games, and it was only 10 points.
Yeah.
Um, he's been taking on some tough run defenses, but really since Deshaun Watson has come back, this team as a whole has struggled, and the running game has struggled. And now they get another difficult matchup. What are your thoughts here?
Deshaun Watson's really, really bad. So
Yeah.
like you said, it does kind of limit what they can do on offense because, again, they can just key in on, all right, Nick Chubb is the biggest problem we got on offense right now because Deshaun Watson's not really doing anything with the ball. But I want to say Washington, not quite the team to try to have a bounce back game against, especially as a running back. But recently we have seen at least a little bit of success from running backs against Washington's defense. Like Saquon a couple weeks ago was able to have a pretty good game. Last week, who did the Commanders play last week? Why am I forgetting? Why am I blanking on that?
Um, I'm also blanking here. I can pull it up
Oh,
real
we
quick.
played the 49ers.
That's right.
49ers
Well,
and yeah, Christian McCaffrey did not do super well. So it's like one of those, he wasn't very
Yeah.
efficient with the ball. So I would lean more towards, right, Nick Chubb not having a great game against Washington before I would say he does have a good game against Washington.
Yeah. No, I agree. It this is a tough one. Is it though? Like I want to say this feels like a start your studs. Like Nick Chubb is really really good. We know that. He's proven that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also this is a trend now. It's been 4 weeks in a row where he hasn't put up the points that you need him to put up. He gets another tough matchup. Again, this is a guy we can go back to the rankings once we get through the list and kind of try to determine who you would start over him, but I'm definitely nervous about him this week.
Oh, for sure. I don't think it's super clear cut. And I think that some of the people that you may have been able to pick up on the waiver wire, people who've been performing this year, maybe better starts than Nick Chubb, depending on at least, how they've been playing so far, of course. Like, for example, Kenneth Walker, if he were to play, I know he's a little bit lower on the list, spoiler alert, but that's somebody who people were able to pick up off of waivers who is still considered a high tier running back. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Where
right.
it's not quite so ridiculous as trying to start like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw in Latavius Murray. Yeah, even though Latavius Murray not the worst start in the world either.
Not the worst start.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, we are going to come back to some of these names. We'll revisit them and talk about sit starts versus them. But I want to keep going here. We'll go to Najee Harris, another bad matchup at Baltimore, who is 5th ranked against running backs.
I would have said that I'm worried about Najee before last week. I'm a little bit less worried just because they did get him a lot more involved in the passing game this past week.
Yeah.
If that continues, I'm not super worried about Najee, but if they start to go back to Najee sort of splitting those receiving looks or not really getting those receiving looks, then yeah, I'm pretty worried about him in that instance.
Yeah, he got 9 targets last week, which was fantastic to see. I think that was his season high. Yeah, yeah. Prior to last week, his season high was 6. So we got 9 targets, 6 receptions, also a season high. 42 receiving yards, also a season high. It was just a great look in the receiving game, like you said. If that continues to trend that way, then I really wouldn't be worried about it against Baltimore because they can get him involved in that fashion. Do you think that that's something that is going to continue?
I would hope so, just because it wasn't like he got that look due to injury. Because Jalen Warren was still
Right.
out there on the field.
Right.
Why am I blanking on running back names? Yeah, I think those were the only 2 running backs that really played. Let me take a look.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think
because it was
Snell or McFarland.
Connor Hayward, Kenny
Yeah.
Pickett, Derek Watt. Yeah, those are the only 2 running backs that played.
Yeah.
And he got that nod, so I'd hope so at least, but you never really know.
Yeah. So I think we're both probably not super confident that he's going to be efficient on the ground, but I think he can make up for it in the passing game. And then we'll go to Kenneth Walker, like you mentioned. He is questionable, but he played the last 2 weeks. He came into both of those weeks with a questionable designation. We hope the same for this week, but he does get another tough matchup versus the Jets, who are 9th ranked against running backs.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I like it. I like the Kenneth Walker start. I like the Kenneth Walker start a lot. There's a couple reasons why. Travis Homer looking like he's probably not going to play this week because he's out due to injury as well. So a lot of the passing work should go towards Kenneth Walker if there's any. And even just last week, I know you said New York, they're 9th against running backs, but last week against Travis Etienne, in a game where running the ball is pretty expected due to the weather conditions, Travis Etienne was still able to find a good amount of success out there. I'm not going to say it was amazing, but it was still pretty good. He was able to get 83 yards out there off of 16, 17 carries.
Here, let me
22
look it
carries, 83 yards. So not the most efficient day, but they leaned on him.
Got it done.
Yeah, he got it done in a game where they knew they were going to be running the ball. So
Exactly.
I think Kenneth Walker will be involved enough to have a good game still, even against a bad matchup.
Yeah, again, in agreement with you here. I'm not super worried about it. The only thing that I would be a little bit worried about is the injury, but that's just something that you got to monitor as we get closer to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly on this list, we have Deonta Foreman, who just went off for, I think, 165 rushing yards last week against Detroit. who has been like the best run defense in the league so far
Hmm.
throughout the past 6 or 7 weeks. Um, Chuba Hubbard even ate against them. That was weird after seeing their performances against running backs, as of late. But he gets another tough matchup. They're going to Tampa Bay, who is seventh ranked against the run. What's your confidence level in Deonta this week?
It's somewhere in the middle. I'm not down on Deonta Foreman because, again, Tampa Bay's run defense pretty good, but also not unbeatable for sure. Even last week, they gave up a good amount of yards to James Conner. He had a pretty
James
good week
Conner.
against them.
Yep.
Um, with that sort of being said, it kind of depends a little bit on Vita Vea as well because he hasn't been
Yeah.
playing, and that's a big part of their run defense.
Huge part of their run defense. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he's not playing this week, I would fire up Deonta Foreman. I feel confident in that. But if he is playing, I'd be a little bit more wary.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. That was something I was going to bring up as well. Um, so yeah, if you if you can monitor the injury status, sorry, y'all.
Hey man, he's
Make it
pushing through
through.
for y'all, man.
Trying my best. But yeah, if you want to monitor the injury status of Vita Vea, I think that actually does have a pretty big um, impact on the run game for Carolina and the run defense for Tampa Bay. Um, if there's anybody out there that has both Deonta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard going up against Tampa with a good run defense, would you prefer Chuba because he's a little bit more involved in the passing game, or like what are your thoughts there? Because Chuba's
Hmm.
typically the second fiddle as far as like actual rundown work.
I would go Deonta Foreman just because I think he gets a lot more, like you said, more of the meaningful running down work. Like if there's
Yeah,
someone who's looked to in the red zone, anything like that, it should go to Deonta Foreman. But if it's
yeah,
Chuba, you're kind of looking for those bigger plays, like 30-yard passing play or 20-yard passing play, you know?
yeah. It's more of like a cross your fingers
Or he's got to break
and
off a
hope.
big run. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. So let's, like I said, let's revisit some of these names. We'll start by just comparing them to the other guys on the list. I think we kind of determined, even with tough matchups, we're not too worried about the Dallas running backs. We're not too worried about Najee or Kenneth Walker. Um, but we have Josh Jacobs with the quarterback change, with the struggles as of late, taking on San Francisco, the first ranked run defense. Nick Chubb against Washington. Of those two guys, who are you starting?
If I had to pick between the two, I'd probably go Nick Chubb, to be honest with you.
I
The
think I would too.
Josh Jacobs situation is too volatile. It could be one of those where they have nothing else, so they use Josh Jacobs on every play and he has a monster day, and that could be the case. And if it is, I apologize profusely. I'm not a future, soothsayer. But just out of these two and situation based alone, I gotta look at Nick Chubb before I look at Josh Jacobs.
The thing that does scare me is that like Jarrett Stidham could just be a check down monster, like straight to Josh Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
But also they're not gonna move the ball at all, bro. Like it's gonna be three and out, three and out, three and out. I feel
Yeah,
like.
that's how I feel like it's gonna go too. But Jared Stidham could impress us, you know.
No, we can't. No, we won't. Don't lie to the people. He's garbage.
He is really bad.
So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Nick Chubb would be the guy that I would start of the two. Uh, but it's just scary to start somebody who's been as good on the season as Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
And then we have Deonta Foreman on there. If you throw him into the mix, is he last, or does he actually find a way into that ranking?
Him and Josh Jacobs might be interchangeable in this one. I might have Deonta Foreman second, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. That's how I just really don't feel good about Josh Jacobs right now. And I don't know, it's that interview that's still sticking in my head so much. I sent you the clip of it. I don't know if you
Yep.
guys have seen it. It was a clip of Josh Jacobs in the locker room after the game, just totally just fed up, totally done. He just, and I don't know if the situation he's talking about, if he's talking about the Raiders organization as a whole, or with the recent developments, I don't know if he was talking about even Derek Carr, you know? Because all Josh Jacobs said was, this has been a problem since I've been here. And both the Raiders organization and Derek Carr have both been there since he's been there. So I don't know.
If I had to guess, I feel like that's mostly a coaching and front office thing.
That's what I would say too. And if that's the case, are they really gonna? Because they didn't pick up an option on him for next year. He's gonna be a free agent. What are they gonna do? Like, I don't know. This whole situation could fall apart before the weekend even hits. I feel like.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair, and it's something that we should try to keep an eye on as best we can. I don't know how much we're going to know about that prior to the game. I don't know that I would go as far as to start Deonta Foreman over Josh Jacobs, and I know that you weren't super committal about it necessarily, but
Mm-hmm.
that would just be a really tough one for me going into championship week to make that call.
Yeah.
Um, but let's go back to the rankings list. We'll keep Nick Chubb out of it because I think we're at least confident enough to say that he's going to stay in your lineups. Deonta Foreman probably same, but let's see how low we can go with Josh Jacobs here. Um, we already said Nick Chubb. Ramondre Stevenson, you're starting him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mixon against Buffalo, tough matchup, but you're starting him, I'm assuming.
Yeah, still starting Joe Mixon.
Kenneth Walker, we already talked about. You're starting him, right?
Mm-hmm.
David Montgomery versus Detroit, who had been amazing versus the run, but just gave up an absolutely monster game to Carolina. What are your thoughts there?
Being honest, I'd probably go Josh Jacobs over
Okay.
David Montgomery because I feel like I feel like Dan Campbell's going to take that one a little bit personally this week. If we don't stop anything, we're stopping the run.
Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah,
I think that that would probably be my line as well. Again, this rankings list is a little screwy. I feel like there's some guys below David Montgomery that I might have above him, but we don't need to get into that. David Montgomery is our line. Potential waiver wire fill-ins at the running back position. Honestly, pickings are kind of slim. There's not a ton of guys out there that I think you could find on the waiver wire. Zach Moss, if he's still there, I think he's owned in right around 50% of leagues. He's taken on the New York Giants, who are 21st ranked against running backs. Gus Edwards, again, right around that 50% mark if he's out there. He's taken on Pittsburgh, who is 11th ranked against the run. Um, and then we mentioned Miles Sanders, who was a little bit of a surprise on the injury report. We need to monitor his status, but if he's limited, if he doesn't play, guys like Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell are really, really good pickups. They're taking on New Orleans, who's 14th ranked against running backs. And then if you need a direct Derrick Henry replacement, Hassan Haskins and Julius Chestnut are going to be there. They got a tough matchup, though, against Dallas, who's third ranked against running backs. What are your thoughts on some of these guys?
I'm not gonna lie to you. None of these guys are anybody I want to be playing champ week. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I don't want to start any of them. But if you're really in that big of a pinch, I do think that guys like Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is a good pickup. I think he's been operating as the primary back over in Indianapolis. As you said before with Dallas, or not with Dallas, with Tennessee, you could start those two. I'm not super confident with them against Dallas's defensive line or just against their defense in general. Plus, they got Malik Willis most likely back there at quarterback, and the game doesn't really matter if they win or lose it either. So I'm not
Yeah.
super confident in that one.
Yeah.
But Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, you just never know which one of the two to start because it's never a situation where both of them pop off. It's always one or the other. So it really is a
See,
50-50 there, I feel like. What do you feel like there?
if Sanders legitimately doesn't play, if he's limited,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be scared off of either of these guys, honestly. But if he is out,
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually feel pretty good about Boston Scott. We've seen a couple instances
Okay.
this year and last year where when Sanders sat, even though Boston Scott hadn't really been involved throughout the season, it was mostly Kenny Gainwell being involved as the third down back and stuff like that. Boston Scott came in and handled the role as the primary back. He got
Okay.
most of the early down work. He got a lot of the red zone work, and he did get some of the passing game work as well. And Kenny Gainwell kind of just kept the same role that he had throughout the season as the passing down guy.
That makes sense because
Um,
his number is 14. It does make sense.
yeah, so that's just the way that I lean there. I think of this list, I guess Zach Moss and Gus Edwards are pretty good pickups too. So I don't know that I would say that Boston Scott is my favorite, but I think that of the widely available guys, he would definitely be my favorite pickup if Sanders sits.
I think Boston Scott definitely has a higher ceiling than the other two. I think than like Zach
Yeah.
Moss or Gus Edwards.
Yeah, just in that offense and behind that offensive line, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the wide receiver position here. We got a lot of different situations to talk about, whether it be bad matchups, questionable designations and injuries, or quarterback changes. So the first one on the list, another Raider, another supposed stud, Devontae Adams, taking on San Francisco. Good matchup, supposedly. They're against wide receivers. They're only 27th ranked. Good defense overall, but Jarrett Stidham is going to be his starting quarterback this week.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts if you got Devontae Adams this week because it's like you're gonna find out if he's QB proof this week. Let me tell you, you're gonna find out.
Yeah.
And that's a terrifying champ week. That is absolutely horrifying. Like at least with the running back with the quarterback change, like Josh Jacobs, it's just a different guy handling the ball, you know,
Yeah.
or maybe a different guy throwing him checkdowns. But Devontae Adams has to depend on Jarrett Stidham to be able to at least put the ball in that area. And with the way Nick Bosa has been playing this year,
Oh boy.
I don't know if they're going to have any time for any plays to really develop for Devontae Adams to really, really get going. And he's been struggling as of late as well. So it hasn't been like Devontae Adams has been perfect up till this
Yeah.
point, too. So I'm not super confident in Devontae Adams' start this week.
Yeah. I, but like, I don't know. Unless you have a god
Yeah,
squad of wide receivers, you're not sitting them, right?
but there's a possibility that you've still got good receivers available to you because I feel like the drop off between wide receivers. Sure, Devontae Adams, number one wide receiver in fantasy, he's up there. You know what I'm saying? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if he is number one still at this point. I think
I
it's
think
Justin
Justin
Jefferson now.
Jefferson. Yeah.
But in terms of the drop off between like say the top 10 to the top 20 or even the top 30, it's not gigantic. Obviously, it is from like the top 5 going down from there, but any point past that, it's not really that big of a difference between the two, you know? Especially if you were able to pick
Yeah.
up somebody like a Garrett Wilson who has been playing well this year. Again, I'm picking people who are on the list, my bad. But
No, you're good.
there are still options out there that I feel like have at least risen to the point where you could sit Devontae Adams and still start someone and be like, I still kind of feel okay about this, you know?
Yeah. All right. I like the logic. We can revisit that one as well. We'll come back to the rankings list and we'll see how low we can go with Devontae.
Okay.
Next up on the list is the Washington wide receiver core. All three of them: Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, um, Curtis Samuel. Obviously, we would rank them differently, but just as a whole, I want to hear your thoughts. They're taking on Cleveland, who's eighth ranked against wide receivers, so pretty good defense there. And then they also get the quarterback change. They're moving to Carson Wentz.
So this one's weird because this is the first possible positive QB change that we've seen. You know,
Potentially.
it's a
Yeah.
potential. I'm not banking on it whatsoever, but it's potential. And they all played. All the receivers played pretty well last week with the sort of hodgepodge they had of Taylor Heineke starting and then Carson Wentz finishing the game out. But I don't know. There was the fact that Carson Wentz came in for a quarter and had already thrown just as much as Taylor Heineke had the entirety of the game. That I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, Carson Wentz is going to at least get the ball out there. He's going to give these guys opportunities. But it's a matter of I don't know who they're giving the opportunity to, because early on in the season we saw Terry didn't get a lot of looks, but Jahan Dotson did and Curtis Samuel did.
Right.
But this is also after a season of Carson Wentz sitting on the bench and getting to watch the game and watch how Taylor Heineke has played and gotten the ball out and see who these guys are too. So I'm not writing off any of the Washington wide receivers at all. I'm probably not
No.
starting Carson Wentz, but I think there is a possibility that this might be a slight boost for Washington's wide receivers. Slight.
Yeah, so I think definitely for Jahan Dotson, like you said, he's shown that chemistry earlier on in the season with Carson Wentz. Curtis Samuel, too, I feel pretty good about. Terry McLaurin worries me a little bit.
Because he was
The
not getting
chemistry
those
between,
looks early on at all.
yeah, the targets weren't necessarily there, but that's not even the thing that worries me the most because he's the alpha, he's the guy. So, like, Carson's going to throw him the ball. But he's taking on Denzel Ward
Yeah, he's
in
nice.
Cleveland, who's one of the best corners in the league. So I think that's just going to be a really tough matchup. Um,
Yeah,
another guy that's
both corners they've
go
got are
ahead.
both pretty good too.
Who's their other corner?
Because I know it's Denzel Ward and it's Newsom on the other
Oh,
side.
that's right. Yeah, no, you're
Mm-hmm.
right. They're both really good.
They're both good.
Um, so yeah, as far as the quarterback change goes, I don't think that this is a downgrade. I don't know that it's necessarily a huge upgrade either. But I'm not worried about it from that regard. But the matchup is going to be difficult.
Yeah, matchup would be difficult. Cleveland's not very good against the run either, though, right?
Yeah,
So Brian Robinson, he could open some things up for everybody out there, man. It feels good to have a good running back, dude. Brian Robinson's been. I know you're not huge on the Brian Robinson train, bro, but I like
yeah.
Brian Robinson a lot. I think he's good.
He's a cool dude. Obviously, the story is amazing. I love him as a person. He's I don't know. He's fine. he's he's fine. He's not the most efficient. He's not going to go out there and do anything crazy, but he's going to do his job. He's going to hit the hole. He's going to pick up the yards you need, and that's fine. Let's move on, man. I'm not trying to hate on anybody. let's let's keep it going.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we're good.
We'll go to Garrett Wilson, who you mentioned. He also gets a quarterback change, and I think this one is definitively a positive. They're going
Oh,
back to Mike
100%.
White, but it gets a tough matchup. They're going to Seattle, who is third ranked against wide receivers, and he's probably going to see a lot of shadow coverage. Man, I am blanking on all the
Tariq
names
Woolen,
today.
baby. Tariq
Tariq
Woolen.
Woolen.
A guy I
I'm
did not
struggling.
know was 6'4" and ran a 4.2. Jesus Christ.
He's crazy,
That guy
bro.
is a monster.
And he's not just a combine freak. He's not just an athletic freak. He's a dog. He's technical. He's already up there as probably a top 3 corner in the league, at least just the way that he's performing this season.
Yeah, between him and Sauce, bro, I hope a lot of these young corners come out here like this because it's been really fun to watch the two of them play. And even Sauce
For
Gardner,
sure.
they're trying to make this whole rivalry, and he's like, "Nah, dude, I'm not. There's no rivalry. I love the guy. I love his game." And they get to
Yeah,
see each other this week, so that'd be nice.
it
Now,
will be
obviously, they're not
fun.
going to play against each other, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so from Garrett Wilson's perspective, how are you feeling about him this week?
From Garrett Wilson's perspective, in terms of usage, I think it's going to be there. You know, I think they're going to try to get him the ball as much as they can because it's weird. He's a rookie wide receiver, but he's been the alpha in this offense 100%. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, is Tariq Woolen going to have a great game, which this whole season has led me to believe nothing but he is, you know? So this is one of those matchups I am a little bit nervous about. I think they're going to try to get him the ball, but I just don't know how successful it's going to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on just where they line up Garrett Wilson.
If they're lining him up
I
out the
think,
slot,
yeah,
yeah.
I think if they try to move him around, try to get him in the slot, use him creatively to get him off of that matchup with Tariq Woolen, then I think he'll be just fine. Um, but yeah, it'll be a fun battle to watch for sure. Um, we'll move on to Debo Samuel, who is questionable coming into this week. It seems like early indications are that he is going to play. But they're taking on Las Vegas, who is 13th ranked against wide receivers, coming off of what we thought was going to be a devastating injury, ended up not being as bad. How do you feel about trotting him out there for championship week?
I feel lukewarm on it. I feel like we had talked about Brock Purdy earlier, and we're not super confident in Brock Purdy because this is a game that they could come out and just run the ball every play and be successful in that, right? But at the same time, Debo Samuel is involved in the run game, so
Yeah,
it's not like I can completely write him off as a wide receiver and say, oh, he's just not going to get the ball too much because he should be involved no matter what.
right.
So it's one of those. I'm not super excited to start him champ week after he hasn't played for a couple weeks. They may be ramping him up. We don't really know what his status is going to be going into this game. They're going to have him on a pitch count, what the case is going to be. But I don't think it's the worst start in the world either. If he does come out there, no limitations, just to see what happens, you know?
Yeah. Um, Not the worst start, that's for sure. But I think we have a couple more players to talk about on this list. I think Debo is probably the one that I'm most worried about.
Yeah. I think out of most people on this list, besides maybe Devontae Adams, that we've talked about so far,
Yeah, yeah. That's crazy to say, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, Devo's probably one of the ones I'm most worried about as well.
Yeah, I just I'm getting repetitive. You've said it a bunch, but yeah, I think uh, the 49ers are going to come out here and just stomp on Vegas. They're going to be able to run it at will, and I don't know. I can't say this with any confidence, but because Debo is coming back off of this injury and maybe they're easing him back, I don't know how much use he is going to have in the running game.
That's what
I
I'm
feel
saying.
like
They might not
they don't
use
want
him all
to.
too much this week because save him for
Yeah,
playoffs. Just try to ramp him up a little bit, get him used to playing a little bit of contact football, and then sit him
exactly.
for the rest of the game. You know?
That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting here. If I had better options, I probably would try to sit Debo this week.
Yeah, I'd agree with that sentiment.
All right. And then we have the Seattle wide receiver group. This is an interesting one to talk about. We have DK Metcalf, who has been playing really well,
Hmm.
even against tough matchups. He's been balling. Tyler Lockett, honestly, same, but now he's coming off of finger surgery, um, and so he's questionable for this game. It looks like he is probably closer to playing than not. Um, so I know that we're talking about both of them, but Lockett is probably the one that people have the most questions about. They're taking on the Jets, who are second ranked against wide receivers.
Yeah, and I know people probably asking about Lockett. If it were me, I wouldn't start Lockett this week. And if Lockett doesn't play this week, I probably wouldn't start DK too much either because
Mm,
if DK's out there and Lockett's not, obviously DK's going to probably see a lot of Sauce Gardner out there. If they're
yep.
both out there, I'm not sure how they're going to split that up. Maybe one of them's going to see a lot less than the other, most likely. But it's just, yeah, Lockett coming off of finger surgery. They're saying it should have taken him longer to get back than they're, trying to give him. Obviously Seahawks optimistic. Tyler Lockett hasn't missed
Yeah.
a whole lot of games in his career, really.
And they're still pushing for a wild card spot, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot
So
kind of riding on this game that they do kind of need him out there on the field for, but I'm
yeah.
not super confident in starting him if he is out there on the field.
Yeah, and we saw what it looked like last week without him. That offense really struggled against Kansas City, who's not that great
Yeah,
against the
not
pass.
all that good.
Or against wide receivers. They've been a pretty good matchup in that regard. Um, DK still got his. It wasn't a great week, but he did fine. But yeah, in a really tough matchup against the Jets, like you said, if Lockett sits, it seems weird that if one receiver sits, you would hyper target DK. But I think I'd be even more nervous just about the offense as a whole, and like you said, the fact that Sauce would be on him the whole game.
Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty if it's only one of them's out there on the field, I feel like.
Yeah. And then last on the list is the Jacksonville wide receiver group. They're taking on Houston, who is fourth ranked against wide receivers. We talked about this with Trevor Lawrence. And we mentioned with Trevor Lawrence also that we're not super nervous about the matchup just because Houston has been playing better as of late. They've been scoring more points. So hopefully this will just be a little bit more of a high scoring affair than we would have thought earlier on in the season. But there's also some question marks just in general, regardless of matchup, about the Jacksonville wide receivers. Christian Kirk has been pretty inconsistent as of
Hmm.
late. Zay Jones, who had been hot, cooled off quite a bit last week. Evan Ingram seems to be the only, consistent guy in the group, but he's a tight end. We're only talking about wide receivers here. I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just said it right there. We don't know what Christian Kirk is going to give us on a week to week. Zay Jones is very streaky, and we've seen that Zay Jones also has the ability to just take all the wide receiver work from everybody. So,
Yeah.
but also Evan Ingram, he's been good for the last 4 weeks straight. I'm pretty sure. Like he's been the tight end one for the last 4 weeks.
The tight end won by far. I think by like a 12-point margin for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, so he's someone I'm not super worried about. But the whole wide receiver group, we just don't know who's who at this point. Except, I guess we do know Evan Ingram does have his role cemented, at least for the last 4 weeks. If we're looking at that sample size and we're rolling forward and hoping that it stays the same, Evan Ingram's the one I bet on, and the other two, I wouldn't be depending on them in Champ Week. As much as that hurts to say, as much as we love Christian Kirk, we just don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing every week.
Yeah. Very true.
It's gonna be an
All
interesting
right, so
room next
let's
week though, or next year.
yeah, with Calvin Ridley coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. It'll be exciting, especially it'll be mostly exciting for Trevor Lawrence. He's gonna ball.
Oh yeah.
Um, but let's play the dreaded Devonte Adams game.
No boy.
How's that sound?
All right, let's do it.
Let me pull up this wide receiver list. So on the list that I'm looking at, he's still ranked 8th amongst wide receivers. I have a pretty good feeling that he's going to fall a lot further than that for us.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I'm going to play this straight up. We're going to start with the names above him. AJ Brown versus New Orleans.
AJ Brown.
Easy. Amon-Ra versus Chicago.
Amon-Ra.
Easy. Those were the two names. That was the 6 and 7 spot. We're going to go below him now. I still think these are going to be fairly easy. T. Higgins versus Buffalo.
T. Higgins.
Keenan Allen versus the Rams.
Keenan Allen.
Okay. We just talked about him. DK Metcalf versus the Jets.
If
Let's say Lockett plays.
If Lockett plays, I would pick DK. If Lockett doesn't play, I'd pick Devontae.
I'm in agreement there. DK is ranked a little bit higher on this list than I may have said. Jalen Waddle versus New England.
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, right. That's
even with Bridgewater, I'd take Jalen Waddle over.
Yeah. Chris Godwin versus Carolina.
Chris Godwin.
Over Devontae Adams.
I think in this matchup, yeah. Like in terms of like how I think Devontae Adams is gonna do versus how I think Chris Godwin's gonna do.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah. Devonta Smith versus New Orleans.
I gotta go Devontae Adams there, and there's no shade to Devonta Smith. I know he just had a 27-point game last week. We just don't know who's gonna show up every week, dude. That's the worst part about it. But like,
They're both Devonta. I might
going
start
Devonta Smith. I'm going Devonta Smith.
This is crazy. Okay. Mike Williams versus the Rams.
All right, that's where I'll draw the line.
Yeah,
I'll go Devontae Adams just because we literally don't know which Mike Williams is going to show up on a week to week. So
or which Justin Herbert, or which offensive play caller. We don't know. We don't know anything.
Yeah, but I'll take Devontae Adams over him there. But that Devonta Smith one threw me for a loop.
Yeah, no, it's close. It's definitely close. But I can't hate on my boy after he just put up 27 points. And very sadly, I didn't believe in him and I benched him. So I can't. I have to stick with Devonta.
No, I feel that. Definitely feel it.
Okay, so that's our line there. And then we'll talk about some potential waiver wire fill-ins at the wide receiver position. DJ Chark, if he's still out there, he's playing Chicago, who's 17th ranked against wide receivers. I feel like the Lions are going to go pretty pass happy. Their running game has been almost non-existent these past couple of weeks. And DJ Chark has been the primary beneficiary of that. Obviously, Amon-Ra is getting all the targets, but it's a lot of short yardage stuff. He's still going to be great. I'm still starting him with a ton of confidence, but DJ Chark has been the big play guy, and it's been fairly consistent as of late. So I like him a lot. And then some of these guys, not as confident in for sure, but Russell Gage, he's been good the past few weeks. He gets Carolina, who's 25th ranked against receivers. Romeo Doubs has a great matchup versus Minnesota, who's 31st against wide receivers. I think this one depends for me on if Christian Watson is limited or doesn't play. If Watson is in and he's a full go, I'd be a lot more nervous about Doubs. But if he's out, I think he's actually a pretty good start. And last on the list is Isaiah Hodgins for the Giants. Not the greatest matchup. They get Indianapolis, who's 6th against wide receivers, but that team is just terrible as a whole. And Isaiah Hodgins has actually been kind of operating as the one the past couple of weeks. He had a great game last week, and we'll see if that can continue. What are your thoughts on this group?
No, it's like you said. I like DJ Chark a lot. He's been playing really well as of late. Russell Gage, someone I was pretty high on before the season started. Obviously struggled with injuries throughout the season, but has started to pick it up as of late. So that's good to see. Romeo Doubs, probably the biggest question mark out of everybody on here. Like you said, if Watson's out there, probably don't want any parts of it. But if he's not, might be the guy to fire up just because Minnesota should be putting points up on the board. Green Bay should have to keep up. So
Yeah, and their secondary is trash.
yeah. And then Isaiah Hodgins, he's just been annoyingly very involved over there in New York. So I think he's
Yeah.
going to be one of those guys that gets pretty involved too.
Yep. And then I didn't mention it, but I think we should monitor the status of Julio Jones. That would probably affect Russell Gage and whether you're confident in starting him. Because did he miss? I should have figured this out before, but I feel like he's missed a couple games and he has a chance to come back. Let me look him up real
I'm
quick.
pretty sure he has been hurt because I have seen him on injury reports, but I want to say he was available this past week.
He didn't. Maybe he was available, but he didn't play.
He did play.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at week 15.
Yeah,
no, you're
he
right.
caught one pass for 5 yards.
Great stat line.
Oh yeah, that's Julio Jones right there, Hall of Famer. He really is, though. He really is. That's not a joke.
No, yeah, no disrespect. He's a goat.
He's just old, man.
Yeah, it'd be like that. But so maybe his status doesn't matter as much. Russell Gage has actually been playing pretty well.
Old man Jones.
Old man Jones. Let's get into our last position group here at tight end. Got some tough matchups. This first one, I mean, you can't sit him with the way that the tight end position has been, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Dallas Goedert gets New Orleans, who is number 1 ranked against tight ends. Demario Davis is a dog, and they really, really have been shutting down the tight end position. So I'm nervous about it, but I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, unless you got somebody. I don't see a situation where you got Dallas Goedert and you've got somebody better on the bench.
You got Travis Kelce on the bench?
Yeah, you got you were able to swing Travis Kelce and Dallas Goedert. Yeah, fuck no. Fuck no. But yeah, you're probably gonna be sending Dallas Goedert out there on your roster, and you're just gonna hope for a breakdown this week. That's all you're gonna hope for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much analysis needed, honestly. I just wanted to mention it because it's a scary matchup. But yeah, there's nothing you can do. You got to put him out there. And then David Njoku, he gets the Washington Commanders, who have been 6th ranked against tight ends. They've been pretty good. And we mentioned our lack of confidence in Deshaun Watson and just that offense as a whole. We can play the game afterwards, but I want to hear your thoughts just in general about Njoku this week.
I'm not confident in Njoku, but at the very least, he's one of those people that Watson does look to a good amount. The issue is that the Washington defense has been playing very well, and there's a chance that Cam Curl comes back as well.
That would
Cam
be
Curl
pretty
comes
huge.
back, that'd be huge. Yeah.
Yeah. He would probably be the guy lined up over Njoku for most of the game.
Mm-hmm. And if he comes back, I'm not confident in David Njoku.
Yeah. So let's, I guess, how do you want to play this? Do you want to assume that Curl is playing or that he's out?
I would assume Curl is playing because that's all we've heard this week is that Cam Curl's coming back. Cam Curl might come back. Cam Curl. So I'm going to assume he'll be here and that they're planning for him to be there.
All right. So assuming that Curl is playing, let's do the rankings game once again. David Njoku or Pat Freiermuth versus Baltimore?
I'll take Pat. The Muth.
Hopefully he gets Luth. Taysom Hill versus Philly.
Taysom Hill against Philly. Where the hell is Taysom Hill ranked at on this list?
9th. David Njoku's actually 10th.
Whoa.
Yeah. The names ahead of them, I'll read you. So they got Travis Kelce, George Kittle, TJ Watkinson.
Yeah, Walk.
Mark Andrews, who you could debate, but I mean, still Mark Andrews. Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, Evan Ingram, and then it gets into the guys that I just mentioned, Pat and Taysom.
I would probably flip Njoku and Taysom Hill. It's just because Taysom Hill he's a tight end, but he's never involved in the passing game, or unless he's throwing passes, and I just don't know if they're going to need him a whole lot in the run game, especially against Philly, who's been pretty good against the run as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably go Njoku there. I wouldn't get too cute with the Taysom Hill start over Njoku.
Yeah. All right. You ready to get mad at this list?
Yeah.
Number 11, Darren Waller.
Shut the fuck.
Actually, actually, no, no,
With
no. I
Stidham, I
forgot
guess.
Jarrett
With
Stidham. I
Stidham,
forgot
with
Jarrett
Stidham,
Stidham.
I guess. But
Sorry.
what the? I still don't know if
Okay.
he should be under Taysom Hill though.
Yeah, probably not. But okay, so Njoku or Waller?
If I had to pick between the two, I I'd probably go Njoku.
Okay.
I wouldn't be happy about it, but yeah,
Yeah,
Jarrett
and
Stidham's
then,
really bad.
bro, this list is weird. Normally we would stop once we got to one where you would take Njoku, but I feel like some of these names are still debatable. There's two on here still. Uh, Cole Kmet versus Detroit.
Why isn't Cole Kmet higher on this list?
I don't know. I don't know.
What? Cole Kmet's
I don't
probably
know.
he's top 10 above the three guys we just talked about. I'd start Cole Kmet before Taysom Hill,
Okay.
Njoku, and Waller.
Yeah, I think you're gonna continue to be mad. Dawson Knox
What the fuck is going on?
versus
What is
versus
this?
Cincinnati. Tyler Higbee's down here too.
What is this? Yeah, bro. I don't even want to hear any more names. No one knows what these tight ends are gonna do. No one knows.
I'm yeah, I'm not gonna say the name of the ranking sheet. Honestly, like I feel like typically they're not terrible, but this is a weird ranking. Okay, but we would we would take Higbee, Knox, Komet, and Pat all over Njoku probably, right?
Yes.
And then Taysom Hill, not so much. Darren Waller, also iffy, but we're probably sticking with Njoku just because of Stidham. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So hopefully, it took us a second, but hopefully that encapsulates our thoughts and gives you guys an idea of our confidence level in David Njoku.
Yeah, my bad, man. I didn't know
Um,
they'd do a list like that, man. Shit.
that's not your bad at all. That's their bad.
God damn.
And then some potential waiver wire fill-ins this week. Again, it's slim pickings. It's the tight end position. There's really not much out there. But one of the guys that I do really like is Tyler Conklin. Hasn't been great as of late, even when Mike White was at quarterback. But he gets Mike White back, which I think is going to be an improvement. And also, he gets Seattle, who is 32nd ranked, the dead last defense against the tight end position. So I think he's a fantastic start if you're in need at the tight end position. And then some other guys. We talked about Taysom Hill, but Juwan Johnson, he's been pretty good as of late. They get Philly. Not a great matchup. They're 7th ranked against tight ends, but there's just not that many options out there. And then Jordan Akins of the Houston Texans. They play Jacksonville, who's 24th ranked against tight ends.
Yep. Yeah, I like that Tyler Conklin start a little bit actually. I kind of do like that one. 32nd against tight ends. You kind of gotta believe in the numbers on that one. You know?
Yep. Yeah, especially when there's literally no other options.
Yeah,
Like,
literally.
what are you going to do? All right. So, thank you guys for sticking with us. I just want to say a sincere, heartfelt good luck to everybody out there in the championship. I know y'all are stressing. I got eliminated. Will got eliminated. We're going to see each other in the third place matchup. We are going to finally get that Fantasy Football Busters Bowl, just not where we wanted it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, to you guys that are out there in the championship, we hope all of the best. We wish you well. Even if you're in the third place matchup, wherever you are, even if you're trying to fight out of last place, good luck. We're sending you good vibes. But yeah, Will, you wanna break us down here? Give the people what they need to hear.
Hell yeah. If you guys made it this far into the video, it means one thing and one thing only. You fuck with the vid. Not COVID, of course. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and drop down in the comments if you're brave enough to ask us a question and you want us to answer it for your championship game. We will answer it to the best of our ability, of course. There is no paywall, nothing like that. You can also look down in the description. You'll find all the links to our socials. That's Twitter, TikTok, stuff like that. I've been slacking as of late because Spin the Wheels will be out soon, I promise. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, we love you. And yeah, best of luck in your championship games. Unless you play in week 18, and we'll see you fucks next week. Peace.